Hey everybody and welcome back to G-senjou no Maou. And in the last episode we found out that Maou is in fact Asai Kyosuke, the protagonist. Surprise, surprise. Or they just want us to think that he is Maou, but the reality might be different. Who knows? Let's continue. The three of us get off the platform at the Eastern District Station. Tsubaki's house should be nearby. I need to keep my guard up in case things get violent. In the midst of my thoughts, Eiichi yells loudly, "Hey, cut it!" He then rings the doorbell. For a moment, there was silence. Yeah, do you think she just left? Usami pointed at the window. I see, whatever happened was so bad that they have to close the curtains in the middle of the day. Just as I was admiring Usami's observational skills, the door suddenly opened. Her face was as white as a ghost. Can we come in? Well, we weren't exactly invited. Come to think of it, it really is rare for Eiichi to ask for any food besides sweets. Is their stew really that good? When we entered the living room, her father appeared. Why is the breadwinner of the family not working at this time of day? Because he's self-employed? But even then, something's strange. Tsubaki, her father, and her siblings all sit in the family room. But her mother's not there. Did something happen to your mother? I looked at Usami. What sharp eyes. She's searching the immediate vicinity. Her father's words sound very forced. He pulls out the chair near the phone and sits there with a heavy look. A gaggle of formerly rowdy kids also sits there silently. One seems to be sleeping, one playing with toy blocks absent-mindedly, and another one clinging to Tsubaki's leg. The whole room seems dead. Only Eiichi, who seems to be ignoring the somber atmosphere, manages to blurt something out. As if following Eiichi's lead, Usami nods her head. Did something happen to Hiroaki? As I was about to say that out loud, Usami quietly said, Indeed, all the other kids are still home. I gulped. That one in a million possibility passed through my mind. Tsubaki looks like she's about to cry.
Oi, Tsubaki.
Last night would be after she had coffee with me.
Tsubaki, もういい。お前のせいじゃない。
保育園から一人で帰ることあるの。前にも私の迎えが遅れて一人で帰ったことあるの。
I'm also partly to blame for Tsubaki getting there late, but I never would have guessed he could be kidnapped. It's far too unreal. Is this what they call the moment when everything goes wrong?
それで
In this crowded room, only Usami remains calm.
ひろあきくんが誘拐されたと確信に至ったのはな。ずっと探してたんだけど、ひろあき夜になっても帰ってこなかったの。そしたらいきなり電話があって。相手は息子を預かっているとでも言ったのか？うん。たまたま私が電話に出て。ひろあきくんの声を聞いたか？いや、聞いてないけど。じゃあ誘拐されてないかもしれなかったり。しかし現実、ひろあきくんは帰ってきていない。誘拐犯を名乗る人物から電話があった。まず誘拐されたと見て間違いはない。気になるのはひろあきくんの安否ですね。
Tsubaki is surely more concerned about that than Usami.
お父さん、次に電話があったら真っ先に確認してください。
I get the feeling that at some point the atmosphere of the room started to revolve around Usami.
犯人の要求は？それは身代金は5000万だって。そうか。なら少なくともあと一度は犯人はこの家に接触してくるな。
I know what Usami's getting at. He has to somehow get that 50 million. Basically, the criminal has not yet spoken about how the ransom will be handed over. Still, kidnapping. This is a genuine crime. Even I, one who is always working in the gray area of commerce, was shocked. Also, I need to ensure that a certain thing doesn't happen. A certain thing? Exactly, the police. 警察には連絡するなと？連絡したらひろあきを。Well, that's standard procedure for a kidnapper.
警察に連絡しようかと。
ダメだよお父さん。警察に連絡したことが犯人に知れたらひろあきが。
しかしこういうのは警察に任せるしかないじゃないか。
Usami silently watched the exchange between father and daughter. Trying not to raise any suspicions on myself, I spoke calmly. Please think twice about calling the police.
どうしてだい？彼らは専門家だよ。犯罪対策のプロだ。僕らはただの一般人だ。警察に任すべきじゃないか。
Tsubaki's father is clearly becoming upset. To use such mannerisms in front of his daughter's friend, he really has lost control of his emotions. Please calm down, sir. You are correct. In fact, you can say it's a citizen's duty to call the police in the event of a crime. But how can I put this? I need to convince him. Calling the police would be very problematic. Because if the police come, they'll investigate all of Tsubaki's family's problems. The kidnapper's motives and why he chose Tsubaki's family would likely come to light. The fact that this family is being pushed into selling their property would doubtlessly come up during the process of investigation. And then an investigation into Sano Corporation's land development department would doubtlessly lead to information about the Asahi Corporation's involvement. If the public found out there's a relationship between a legitimate company like Sano and a shady one like Asahi, all joint projects between our organizations would cease immediately. It's impossible to stay afloat in the city if the Sano Corporation won't have anything to do with you. And naturally, my own position in the company would be put in a precarious state as well. Therefore, I must prevent any police intervention at all cost. Is there any guarantee that relying on the police will bring Hiroaki back?
それは。いや、きっと警察なら何とかしてくれるさ。
I slowly shake my head. Remember that I told you a little about my father?
ああ、確か金融や不動産も扱っている社長さんだとか。
I believe he was a policeman before that.
本当かね。
I think Gonzo really was a police officer, or he was. He worked in a department that dealt with organized crime. I hear that it's not unusual for a policeman in charge of organized crime countermeasures to retire into the Yakuza, but then again I haven't heard this directly from Gonzo himself. Now then, borrowing my father's authority was a good move, but how do I change over to the main topic? It's about time to cut to the chase. I heard from my father once that kidnapping cases, when reported to the police, well, they tend to produce casualties.
被害者
Yes.
被害者ってそんな
お父さん、やっぱり警察はダメだよ。
I'm not lying about this. Obviously, my last statement painted an image in their minds of Hiroaki in some sort of danger. However, in a kidnapping case, the kidnapped person and the threatened family are all casualties. One cannot measure the psychological pain and suffering family members go through. For this reason, whether the police become involved or not, kidnappings are bound to have casualties.
しかし警察なら犯人を捕まえてくれるに違いない。
Are you okay with just arresting the criminal? Isn't the highest priority to bring Hiroaki-kun back home? Tsubaki's father held his head.
しかし浅井さん、
What?
警察に連絡しなければひろあきくんが帰ってくるという保証もありませんよ。
Damn.
警察の介入にやたらこだわっていらっしゃるようですが。
Well, Papa is a former police officer, so it looks like I said a bit too much.
そうっすか。
Usami stares at me with her unblinking eyes.
誘拐事件における警察の犯人検挙率は 95% だそうです。残りの 5% も特に身代金を奪われたというわけではありません。つまりこの国で警察を相手にして身代金奪取に成功した犯人はいないということです。
Son of a bitch, where did you get all these statistics? What are you trying to say?
警察を頼れば少なくとも身代金はほぼ確実と言える可能性で返ってくるということです。
50 million. While mumbling to myself, I had a flash of inspiration. Quite a devilish conception. However, with this, I'll be able to steer the Miwa household.
どうしました?浅井さん。
No, it's nothing. Be calm. Stay calm. I pretended to have a dizzy spell and shook my head. By the way, Usami.
はい。
Usami's eyes never left me during all this time. I want to know more details about kidnapping cases.
はい。
You just said that at the very least we can guarantee the ransom won't be taken, right?
はい。
In other words, although the money was safe, something else was not. Can I interpret it that way?
鋭いですね。
At that moment, Usami's expression clearly changed. When Eiji and I stole the school keys, she seemed somehow different from usual when questioning us. But still, that was nothing compared to this. In fact, the aura she was emitting could easily be described as murderous intent.
浅井さんのおっしゃる通り、犠牲者は出ています。戦後から現在まで、通算で約180件の身代金誘拐事件が起こっています。そのうち、被害者の数は30人以上です。30人?
That's roughly a 20% mortality rate.
そんな、やだよ。お父さん、絶対ダメだよ。
Right, even though it's only 20%, this is your little brother we're talking about. I can't get that spark of inspiration from earlier out of my mind. I did feel a bit of resistance to the idea, but I would love for the kidnapper to get his 50 million. 50 million isn't a small figure. I don't believe the family has that much in savings. In which case they have no choice but to get a loan from a bank. When that happens, I'm sure they'll have to put up this land as collateral. And if the kidnapper steals that 50 million, they won't get it back. Then Tsubaki and her family will have no choice but to leave their house. This presents yet another reason police involvement would trouble me. Still, in the end, I can't help but feel resistant to the whole thing, because this would mean I'm condoning a genuine crime.
日本で警察に知られることのなかった誘拐事件というものが発生していないとは限りません。海外では身代金誘拐を専門にした犯罪者集団がいるそうです。彼らはプロで、被害者の家族が警察に連絡せずに身代金さえ都合をつければ、ほぼ確実に人質を解放するそうです。相手の出方を伺ってからもう一度検討してみるというのはどうでしょう。
Usami is 100% calm right now. She's calm, but it looks as if something in the core of her heart is blazing fiercely. Tsubaki, you also oppose calling the police, right?
だって警察には連絡するなって 言われたもの。
Tsubaki seems to believe even the words of a vile kidnapper. This is a good example of how sincerity can sometimes be no more than foolishness.
とにかく君たちは帰りなさい。何にせよこれは家族の問題なんだよ。
I cannot allow that. My wicked heart is jeering me on, telling me not to squander this opportunity. Sir, please let me help.
浅井くん。
I'm also partly to blame for Tsubaki's tardiness in picking up Hiroaki yesterday.
それは違うよ。浅井くんは関係ないよ。
Don't bother, Tsubaki. It turned out this way because I asked you to treat me to a cup of coffee. I lowered my eyes. That aside, sir, how do you plan on assembling the ransom?
身代金。
Whether you rely on the police or not, I still think there's a need to prepare the 50 million.
そんな大金うちには。
I'll try asking my father. If I explain the circumstances, I think he'll loan you the money at a low interest rate. Of course, I'll make sure you use this land as collateral.
それは。
He seemed to be at a loss for words. Maybe it's because he has nowhere else to turn, he can only sigh in dejection. Tsubaki, would you also be willing to let me handle this? When I say I feel partly to blame for the kidnapping, I'm not lying. So from among the lenders under the Suwa Alliance umbrella, I plan to choose one that's relatively decent.
浅井くん。ありがとう。
Tears well up in Tsubaki's eyes. Her father sits speechless.
いやいや、さすがの俺ちゃんもシビアに引いちゃったぜ。
Afterward, the three of us left. For now, we'll wait for the kidnapper to call again. Usami and I parted at the Eastern District's park. On the way back, Usami didn't say a single word. She seemed to be thinking that whole time. Come to think of it, weren't you pretty quiet that whole time?
おいおい、俺くらい空気を読める男になるとよ、なんつうの、さすがに無駄口を叩かないっつうの。
Actually, I think you're just about the most oblivious guy I know. Anyway, keep your mouth shut about this.
あってるって、ペットにすら言わねえよ。
Suddenly, Eiichi stopped in his tracks.
しかし、椿のやつ、大丈夫かね。
What's this all of a sudden?
いやよ、さすがに誘拐って、マジサスペンスドラマかよっての。
It came as a shock to me too.
なんか、俺にできることないんかね。なんだよ、なんか変なこと言ったか？
It's just, don't you usually treat younger women like bitches?
メス豚でも、俺ペット好きだし。
I'm not sure what's that supposed to mean, but it seems that even Eiichi is worried about Tsubaki.
帰るわ。
Yeah.
そうだ、椿にプリンでも買ってやるか。うん、あいつは単純そうだから、そんなもんでも喜ぶだろ。俺マジ優しくね。
He leaves, mumbling to himself. Alright, I still have things to take care of. No rest for the wicked. But before that, I need to pay Gonzo a visit. I need him to give me the name of a good loaner. I weigh the train to the southern district. Still, even someone like Eiichi is a good person at heart. Well, partially. What about me? After arriving at Gonzo's house, I explained the circumstances. So in summary, if Miwa Tsubaki's household uses its land as collateral for the loan, everything will be dealt with tidily. Therefore, could you introduce me to someone who could prepare 50 million right away? Gonzo didn't agree to anything, he just held his dignified posture. What do you think, father? Father? His heavy mouth remained shut. Feeling a little scared, I gulped.
誘拐か。犯罪だな。
Yes.
警察に届けてもいいんだぞ。
His words were hiding something, and his voice had a coercive tone.
通報すれば、県警本部から捜査一課は特殊犯捜査係の刑事がやってくる。連中は誘拐対策のプロだ。誘拐ほど失敗の許されない事件捜査はないと叩き込まれている。すぐさま捜査本部が敷かれ、300人体制で捜査に臨むだろう。逆探知や音声解析などの技術的な進歩も目覚ましいし、何よりここの県警は警視庁との連携もうまくいっている。まず間違いなく犯人は上がる。
He's saying this calmly, as if he's directly seen the inner workings of police. Indeed, that is why I want to absolutely prevent any police intervention.
ほ
As long as the kidnapper takes the money, they'd have to move away. When I said that, my mood turned sour.
ういいんだな。
What do you mean?
犯罪を容認するというのだな。
It's as if he saw right through the hesitation in my heart. Well,
誘拐は最も卑劣な犯罪だ。何の罪もない市民を人質に取り、理不尽な要求を突きつける。人質が5歳の幼児ともなればなおさらだ。
what's he getting at?
いいんだな、京介。
A chill went through my spine. I understand. Gonzo's testing me. He is questioning my conscience, testing my capacity as his livestock. That thought cleared my mind. To be honest, I'm a bit hesitant. At that moment, a heavy gust of wind suddenly blew past me. Sparks flew before my eyes. My vision suddenly went white. An acidic taste filled the inside of my mouth. I couldn't move. It was like the strength to maintain my body was leaking out through all my pores. A sharp pain ran through my head. Did he pull me up by my hair?
くだらん生き物だな。
His cold eyes were bottomless.
善にも悪にもなりきれんのか。
I was terrified. My whole body froze, even the blood in my veins iced over. Confusion, agitation, any negative emotion you can name, I'm feeling that right now.
お前はその三輪椿という女を助けたことがあるな。
Huh? I don't know what he's talking about. The only thing I could comprehend was his menace.
スカウト会社にうちの名前を出した。そうだろ。
Now that you mention it, bearing such intense pressure, I slowly pieced together the events that happened that day. I'm pretty sure there was a time when Tsubaki got tricked by his scout on Central Boulevard. I used the Ozai Corporation's name and instructed him not to lay a finger on Tsubaki.
なぜあの時は助けた。
He violently shakes my head.
なぜ今さら両親に揺れる。
He finally releases me.
いいか京介。俺についてきた時点で貴様に待っているのは地獄だけだ。
Yes.
金がいるんだろ。
Yes.
お前の親の借金をお前が返すんだろ。
Yes.
いくらだ。
200 million. My father's, Samejima Toshikatsu's debt. It was only 50 million at the time, but it had a hell of an interest rate attached and swelled up like a snowball.
ならとっとと稼げ。たかが2億だ。
That's right. I followed Gonzo in order to pay back my father's debt. Everyone who knows about that says, what an amazing child to do such a thing for his father. But it's no such beautiful story. Paying back money to the Yakuza requires severe life or death tactics and bargaining. 200 million yen. This isn't some amount you can casually deposit into a bank. And the longer I wait, the more interest it will accumulate. I understand. The sense of terror rapidly lessened. The need for the money has gotten to the point where I've had to consensually sell my soul. This accursed attachment to money pushes me on. There's still only 50 million yen in my safe. I will not fail. Satisfied with my answer, Gonzo deeply nods.
よし。人間の顔になったな。
I finally have the resolve. No longer will I think about Tsubaki. I can only walk my own path. Of course, I know that my path leads to hell. Perhaps it's because of all the excitement, but my head started to hurt. Next time on G-senjou no Maou. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Bye bye.